Donna Hopkins with Pro Football Plus out here, Commanders Day number 2. Here with Mike Jones of The Athletic. Always fun catching up with Mike. He's back out here. I can remember way long time ago you were out here. But when you look at this team now, where they're moving, what is your assessment of them in the second year with Coach Quinn under the leadership?
I feel like as you look at the roster, I feel like it's better. Okay, I don't know if they're going to have a better record than last year, but across the board, you've got some more impactful pieces there. You know, you've got a Debo Samuel, a Laramie Tunsil, a Von Miller. They've risen the level of talent. And you've got some young guys. We're going to see how they pan out and everything like that. But it just looks like the depth is better. Obviously, there are expectations. But last year, they were hoping. You knew they had Jaden Daniels, and you were hoping. You didn't know how that was going to play out. Now you know what their potential could be. But you see that the floor has risen, and hopefully that means that the ceiling has risen as well.
Yeah, it's funny because this is the team that everybody is talking about across the NFL. They're nationally known, too, within 2 years under Dan Quinn's leadership, Adam Peters and all of that. But where have you been impressed the most beyond Jaden Daniels with this team?
I think that when you just look at some of these pieces on their offensive line, what they went out set to do. Okay, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles. They won in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line. This team is trying to catch up to them. So they went out and they invested in their offensive line. They got a veteran like Laramie Tunsil, who is very talented, still only 30 years old. Got a lot of football left tackles, you can play for, a while longer. So hopefully got a lot of football left in him. Then they went and drafted Josh Connerly Jr., another guy. You have potentially 2 really impactful bookends, that helps improve the line. Hopefully that helps with their offensive line. They get Sam Cosmi back. That would help as well. But the dedication to trying to win in the trenches is what I think really stood out to me and lets me know that, okay, they understand where they've got to try to elevate this team and protect Jaden Daniels.
And just wait a minute. I'm just making sure that little light is on. Yeah, because we can always add it. Moving on to some guys that you mentioned. Von Miller, we heard from him today.
Right.
Yesterday in day 1, we heard from Bobby Wagner. Those 2 veteran guys have been impactful players with every team that they played with. Everybody looks at age. I don't, because 30-some years old is still young. And to watch Von Miller out there and what he did in day number 1, what are you grasping from these 2 veterans as far as what they have to offer beyond just the football? And it's Von Miller talking about he likes to work with the younger players and everything. But those 2 players, for the Commanders to bring them here, it's huge for this team.
Yeah, no, I think that what we saw last year with Bobby Wagner was he set a tone for this defense. A lot of young pieces, and he really set that tone. Now you get a guy like Von Miller where you had a real hole as far as pass rusher goes. I think he's going to help further set the tone. You've got 2 guys now that have won Super Bowls. They have been, first-team All-Pros and all the individual accolades. They know how to prepare. And those young guys, watching them and their approach to the game is going to be phenomenal for their growth and development. Yes, they're going to make plays on the field. Are they going to make as many as what they did 5-6 years ago? No, but they're still smart. They're crafty. But the way they prepare and the way they approach is going to be something that's going to help elevate everybody. Because if these young guys watch and they see, hey, they're still 35, 36, and they're still getting the job done, what are they doing to do it? They're going to start following along, and it's going to help them as well.
Defensive side of the ball, we talked about the offense in the trenches, and it was music to my ear to talk about in the trenches, because when you measure yourself up against those teams that won Super Bowls over the last few years, a quarterback is key,
Right.
But that defensive offensive line. Now, moving over to the other side of the ball, the defensive line, they have gotten bigger,
Right.
and they're more physical too. Adding, through free agency, those guys, Goldman, Kinslaw, and even Deron Payne has slimmed down. When you look across the defensive line, what do you see there heading into this year?
Yeah, I'm really curious. That's one where I'm still waiting to see the answer. It's early. These guys don't have pads. I can't wait till they get pads
Tomorrow.
on. Right. I love when we see that hitting, the one-on-one competition. You see the fire in the because it on paper they've gotten guys. Losing Jonathan Allen, was something that hurt a little bit, but also at the same time, staying on the field has been a challenge for him as of late. So they're hoping that Javon Kinlaw can step in and be that spot right there. We'll see. The potential is there. They did get more big boys. I think they're thinking about Saquon Barkley in that rushing attack from the Eagles. We'll see how it comes together. I don't know if they're quite there yet. It might be another off season of additions because, so you got to build this thing year by year with the draft. But I do like that they got some more big boys to try to win up front.
What are you watching most in this team as far as their, have those two inter squad scrimmages against the Patriots and Baltimore? What are you focusing on most in this team in the early stages?
I think just you want to see how they compete, what the fire is, what the pace is. Because, look, you remember years ago when we were down in Richmond and the Patriots came down and they ran their practice, and Washington, the pace was so much slower. The way they went, the crisp, competitive, and the fire and everything, that was a Super Bowl team, and everybody looked, we're like, oh wow, we could tell the difference, So I want to see, okay, how do they look? How do they compare? How do they match up with intensity, with preparation, with precision? That will show where they are, because if you do the little things right, that's where, there's going to be the payoff. So again, I love seeing the one-on-ones. We'll see how they do in those wide receiver drills with the defensive backs, the pass rushers with the offensive linemen. That'll tell us a lot. But again, just their approach and preparation will tell us kind of where they measure up against a really good Baltimore Ravens team and a Patriots team that's still, trying to figure things out.
Yeah, you always want to go up against somebody besides your own people early to kind of give you a telltale of where this team is right now. But one thing about Dan Quinn and Joe Witt and all of those guys, they play fast. They showed that last year, physical and all of that. And before I let you go, where do you see the most competition? I'm looking at the wide receiver group and also the running back. And, of course, we talked a little bit about the offensive line. But where do you see the wide receiver group and the running back headed into 2025?
Yeah, that's what I'm very curious about as well. Obviously, we're not seeing the full picture because Terry McLaurin's not right here. But, okay, where does Luke McCaffrey, does he step into, does he raise another level? Because he showed some flashes last year as a rookie. Now he looks like he's worked on his body. He's like he's playing faster. The OTAs, they were saying he was more confident, more decisive. So who's going to be that other guy along with Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, who comes out there? Yeah, so they've got a number of guys, but who's going to be the one? You always got to have another one. Back in the day with the posse, there were three, so you got to have some. And then the running back, Brian Robinson, this is a big year for him, I think, for, if he really establishes himself this year, then he's maybe the long-term answer. If he's just kind of middling, then, maybe somewhere else. Austin Eckler doesn't have that much time. Which of these young guys is going to force his way into the rotation? That's what's going to be really interesting to see.
Well, me and Mike Jones are on the same page of what we're watching as far as that running back room, wide receiver room, and also the offensive line. So it's only day 2, and it is heating up out here. Mike Jones, I got to get you at the end of training camp to see, how our assessment goes.
Yep, sounds good. Can't wait.
And now let's hear from the players I got a chance to catch up with Ben Sinnott, as far as his second year and what he's going to do. Again, Donna Hopkins out here at day number 2.